One radical critique is that liberalism tends to ignore the extent to which it's dependent on exploitation. Here I'm thinking particularly of exploitation of the third world. Rawls argues for something he calls the liberal peace thesis. The liberal peace thesis says that no two liberal countries have ever gone to war with each other. Other people have different versions of this, the democratic peace thesis, the capitalist peace thesis, etc. Right? At one point, it was said that no two countries with a McDonald's had ever gone to war with each other. I think that may have since been disproved. Right? Now, I look at this and I say, okay, let's assume for the moment that that's true. Right? Liberal states don't go to war with each other. They go to war a lot with non-liberal states. Right? And in some ways, liberal states can sometimes be very vicious towards non-liberal states. So, where does this manifest itself? Well, first, it can manifest itself in a lot of vilification of relatively benign states because they don't happen to be liberal. Right? So I've seen people who argue that certain things like the Austro-Hungarian Empire or the Russian Empire were not nearly as bad as we make them out to be. Why? Why do we make them out to be so bad? Because by having this huge monster there in the background, we can distract attention from the real shortcomings of our own system. Right? Oh, we may have all these problems, but at least we're not as terrible as the czars. Right? Now, the other thing is that, as far as I know, all of the European countries and the United States and Canada are heavily dependent on exploitation, economic exploitation of the third world. Now, Rawls would not approve of that. Right? No good political liberal is going to say, well, yeah, that's just part of life. We need to go on with economic exploitation. Right? But the assumption there is that we could maintain a politically liberal system, right, in practice without the economic exploitation of the third world. Right? My immediate response to that is, I'm not sure we've ever seen that happen in practice. Right? In the US, right, not only do we extract resources at a bargain rate from all kinds of third world countries, right, but we're heavily dependent on undocumented labor. Now, there might not be such of a tendency in Europe towards undocumented labor, but that's partly because they officially have guest worker programs. Right? So they are dependent on cheap labor coming in from North Africa, Turkey, and other places. Now, the Scandinavian countries might be an exception to what I'm saying. Right? But it's important to keep this critique in mind. Right? I think it's an open question whether or not we can maintain a politically liberal system without this kind of economic exploitation.